Welcome to the Celestial Saga channel. Have you ever wondered if dinosaurs could have been part of a grand experiment that went wrong? Today we will tell you about an ancient civilization that created and destroyed the world, leaving behind mysteries that we are still trying to solve. From the safety of their ship high above Terra, the Serenite crew watched in solemn silence as the asteroid collided with the planet, unleashing a catastrophic force. The once thriving world, teeming with colossal creatures, had now become a barren wasteland of fire and ash. The impact sent shockwaves across entire continents, sparking violent volcanic eruptions and plunging the world below into a suffocating darkness. Sage Aldrin, the mission's leader, stood by the observation window, his eyes fixed on the desolate planet. The vibrant greens and blues of Terra were now replaced by an expanse of charred earth and swirling smoke. The dinosaurs, the grand experiment they had created, were no more. Their reign had ended in a flash. "This is what we've done," Aldrin murmured, his voice thick with sorrow. "A world of death, a death world." Next to him, the junior observer Luca gazed at the destruction, their crest feathers drooping in an unmistakable sign of profound sadness. "We wanted to create life that would rise to greatness," Luca said softly, "but all we've brought is destruction." Aldrin nodded slowly, the enormity of their actions weighing heavily on him. "We were so consumed by what could be, by the potential of our experiment, that we overlooked the cost. Now, a world once full of life and promise lies in ruins. We've created a place where nothing can survive, a world condemned to darkness and death." Luca's eyes brimmed with regret. "Is there nothing we can do? Have we truly destroyed all hope for this world?" Aldrin placed a reassuring hand on Luca's shoulder, his gaze never leaving the ruined planet. "What's done is done. Terra has been reset, and with it, everything that once lived here is lost. But perhaps in time, life will find a way to return. Maybe from the ashes of this death world, something new will rise." The silence between them was broken only by the distant rumbling of the dying planet. Aldrin knew their actions would be remembered for ages, not as the creators of life, but as the ones who caused the end of a world. As the ship drifted further from the doomed planet, leaving Terra to its fate, Aldrin whispered one last sorrowful thought: "May this world forgive us, if it ever lives again." Millions of years before the present day, the Serenite's vision for Terra had begun to take form. Hovering above the blue-green planet, a Serenite vessel silently observed, a marvel of organic and mechanical fusion. The ship's rugged exterior appeared as if it had grown from the very bones of Velocia itself. Its hull, a combination of stone-like structures and flexible living tissue, pulsed with life, giving the impression that the ship was a creature suspended in space inside. The vessel was equally alive, with walls that seemed to breathe and consoles that responded to the touch of the Serenite scientists. These scientists, tall and graceful, their plumes of bright feathers crowning their heads, moved with a deliberate elegance. Their large, forward-facing eyes scanned the organic readouts while their clawed hands adjusted the settings on bioengineered controls. "We are ready to begin the seeding," one of the senior scientists announced. Their plumage slightly faded with age, marking the wisdom they carried. The council had debated for ages the introduction of life to Terra, and it had been decided to start with the dinosaurs, mighty creatures designed to dominate the planet's ecosystem. These beings were the pinnacle of Serenite bioengineering, created to thrive in Terra's diverse environments and ultimately evolve into sentient beings. With a simple gesture, the scientists initiated the process. Seed pods were released from the vessel's living tendrils, descending through Terra's atmosphere like falling stars. Each pod contained the genetic blueprints for a new life form, crafted meticulously in Velocia's biolabs. Upon making contact with the planet's surface, the pods burrowed into the earth, beginning the creation of life. The Serenite watched in quiet anticipation. Within cycles of crawling, the first dinosaurs began to emerge, huge herbivores with strong, muscular legs roaming the plains, while predatory giants stalked their prey with deadly precision. Terra, once a quiet world, now teemed with life, its landscape transformed by these new creatures. The scientists observed every detail, recording the dinosaurs' growth, behavior, and their impact on the environment. The Serenite, with their sharp intellect and deep understanding of evolutionary processes, knew that true progress would take time. Many Exarian would pass before they could fully evaluate the results of their experiment. But as the few Chira cycles passed, small signs began to emerge, hinting at challenges ahead. While the dinosaurs were physically impressive, they showed little evidence of the intellectual advancement the Serenite had hoped for, driven purely by instinct, focused solely on survival and dominance. They lacked the inclination toward higher reasoning that might lead to sentience. The senior scientists remained patient. Evolution is a slow and deliberate process, they reminded each other. We must give it the time it requires. And so, the Serenite continued to observe, their hopes pinned on the distant future. They trusted that one day their creations would reach the intellectual heights they had envisioned. Over Ivorixarian and a quarter, Terra's dinosaurs had flourished and evolved under the Serenite's watchful gaze. From their living vessels high above the planet, the scientists observed with growing concern. What had once been a source of pride and optimism was now revealing itself as a flawed experiment. The dinosaurs had become the undisputed rulers of Terra, their immense size and strength making them the dominant force on the planet. Herds of herbivores stretched across vast plains, their thunderous movements shaking the earth. Predators with powerful limbs and razor-sharp claws stalked their prey with relentless efficiency. Despite their impressive physical capabilities, the dinosaurs remained firmly tethered to their instincts, driven by the basic urges of hunger, survival, and territorial conflict. One of the older feathered sages, whose once vibrant crest had faded to a soft gray, reviewed the most recent reports from the observers stationed on the vessels. The data was thorough, outlining the dinosaurs' behaviors, social structures, and their impact on the environment. However, what stood out most, time and time again, was the complete absence of progress towards sentience. They are magnificent in form, the sage mused aloud, but their minds remain primitive, grounded in instinct rather than lifted by thought. A young scientist, one of the newer members of the team, spoke up hesitantly. We've given them time, sage. Perhaps they need more of it. Evolution is a gradual journey, after all. The sage turned toward them, their large eyes reflecting the faint glow from the organic displays. Indeed, evolution is patient, they replied. But the signs we hoped for, the emergence of higher reasoning, the sparks of creativity and innovation, are still missing. Even after so many Saroya, Ixarian, and now Vorixarian cycles, they have not progressed beyond the simplest survival behaviors. The young scientist's crest feathers subtly shifted in color, a sign of their growing concern. What should we do then? Should we intervene? Guide their development? The sage thought for a moment, but ultimately shook their head. Intervention would undermine the purpose of our experiment. We intended to observe natural evolution and see if these beings could, on their own, evolve toward sentience. If they cannot, it is not our place to force it. As more Saroya passed, the Serenite continued to observe the dinosaurs, but the hope that once fueled their mission began to fade. The dinosaurs remained creatures of pure instinct, with no indication of the intellectual progress the Serenite had anticipated. Their societies were basic, their communication primitive, and their behavior was driven only by the need to survive. The feathered sages gathered to discuss the future of the experiment. Some advocated for patience, suggesting that with more time, the dinosaurs might still evolve in the way they had hoped. But the majority, tired of centuries of waiting with little to show for it, began to doubt the viability of the project. We must confront the possibility that we have made a mistake, the sage admitted to the council. These creatures, for all their grandeur, may never reach the heights we envisioned. It is a difficult truth, but one we must accept. Reluctantly, the Serenite began to consider alternatives. Some proposed starting over with a new approach, while others questioned whether Terra itself was capable of supporting the kind of evolutionary progress they desired. The debate raged on, but all the while the dinosaurs continued their existence, unaware of the disappointment they had caused among their distant creators. In the grand chambers of Velocia, the High Council gathered, a place where decisions shaping the destiny of their species had been made for countless Vorixarian. The room, with its living walls adorned with intricate carvings depicting the history of the Serenite, resonated with the weight of the debate about to unfold. The feathered sages, leaders of their respective clans and holders of great wisdom, took their places around the circular table, their crests raised in anticipation. At the head of the council sat high-feathered sage Kirin, the eldest among them. His once vibrant plumes had faded to a pale white, a testament to the saria and a half he had lived through. His eyes, sharp and perceptive, scanned the faces of his fellow sages. To his left sat feathered sage Mira, known for her compassionate nature and deep bond with the natural world. Her feathers shimmered in soft greens and blues. Reflecting her affinity with life across from her was feathered sage Arian, a stern and pragmatic leader whose deep red crest marked him as the keeper of history and law. The final member, feathered sage Rylan, a younger and more optimistic member with bright yellow plumes, rounded out the council. Kieran began the session with a heavy sigh, the burden of his years evident in his voice. We have come together to discuss the future of Terra, a world we've observed for over a Vorexarian. The dinosaurs, our creation, have thrived, yet they have not progressed as we hoped. The question before us now is whether we should continue this experiment or bring it to an end. Feathered sage Mira was the first to speak, her voice tinged with quiet sorrow. These creatures are, in a way, our children. We brought them into existence, shaped their world, and watched them grow. To end their lives would be to sever a bond we've nurtured for so long. They may not have achieved sentience, but does that lessen their worth? Life, sentient or not, is sacred. Arian's feathers bristled slightly as he responded, his voice firm. We must not allow sentiment to cloud our judgment. The dinosaurs are nothing more than a failed experiment. They lack the intellectual capacity to rise above their instincts. Their continued existence on Terra serves no purpose other than to perpetuate their brutish dominance. We have a responsibility to guide evolution toward progress. And these creatures are a dead end. Rylan, who had remained silent up until now, leaned forward, his eyes bright with thought. But are we not also responsible for the life we create? We set this experiment in motion with the goal of fostering sentience, of watching life evolve beyond the primal into the intellectual. If the dinosaurs cannot achieve this on their own, perhaps it is our duty to intervene, to guide their development in the right direction. Ending their lives without trying to correct our course feels premature. Kieran nodded thoughtfully at Rylan's words. You raise a valid point, Rylan. However, we must also consider the potential consequences of such intervention. Tampering further could create an imbalance, leading to unforeseen chaos. We must ask ourselves, is it ethical to end non-sentient life in pursuit of a higher goal? And if we allow them to continue, are we not risking the possibility of this experiment spiraling out of control, as Arian suggests? Mira, her voice soft yet firm, added, there is also the question of what defines sentience. The dinosaurs may not have developed as we hoped, but they exhibit social behaviors, complex interactions, and even emotional responses. While they may never reach the level of sentience we desire, they are not without value. Must we measure all life by the standard of intellectual achievement alone? Arian's gaze sharpened, his eyes narrowing. We must, he replied. If we are to maintain our legacy as stewards of evolution, we must uphold the traits that allowed our ancestors to survive and thrive. Adaptability, the ability to think, to innovate. It is our responsibility to cultivate these qualities, not allow them to be stifled by creatures incapable of them. The ethical dilemma is not about ending life, but about failing to advance life's potential. A heavy silence settled over the council as each sage pondered the arguments laid out. Finally, Kieran spoke, his voice a calm reflection of the wisdom in the room. We bear a profound responsibility both to the life we have created and to the future of evolution on Terra. If we choose to end this experiment, we must do so with the understanding that we are making space for new possibilities, for a reset that may, one day, lead to the sentience we seek. Rylan's crest lowered slightly, his earlier optimism tempered by the gravity of the decision. If we must end it, let it be done with respect and care. These creatures, though they haven't fulfilled our hopes, have lived, struggled, and thrived. They deserve to be remembered, not as failures, but as a step in the long journey of evolution. Mira nodded in agreement, her eyes soft with emotion. Let us ensure that whatever comes next is born from the lessons we have learned here, she said. Valier ever pragmatic, another sage added, and let us ensure that we do not repeat our mistakes. Any future attempts, if there are any, must be approached with greater foresight, a clearer understanding of the traits we wish to foster, and a well-defined plan for how to accomplish that. Seeing the consensus forming, Kieran concluded, then it is decided. We will end this experiment, not out of failure, but out of a commitment to the future. Terra will be reset, and in time, future generations may choose to reseed it with new life. Life that carries forward the potential we have always sought. With that, the decision was made. The Serenite began preparations to guide the asteroid toward Terra, their hearts heavy with the weight of what must be done. Yet, even in this act of destruction, there was a glimmer of hope. Hope that from the ashes, something new and greater might one day rise. As the Serenite prepared for the final phase of their experiment on Terra, their vessels hummed with activity. The directive was clear: reset the planet to allow for a new beginning, one that might eventually lead to true sentience. However, carrying out this decision was no simple task. It required precision, a deep understanding of planetary mechanics, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. From their vessels, now positioned in a higher orbit above Terra, Sage Aldrin and his team began the delicate task of steering an asteroid from the outer reaches of the solar system toward the planet. The asteroid, a colossal mass of rock and ice, had been chosen for its size and trajectory, large enough to trigger a global reset without completely sterilizing the planet. Aldrin, despite his many years, took personal responsibility for overseeing the operation. His wisdom and experience were invaluable in ensuring that the procedure would be flawless. Beside him was Kalen, a junior observer eager to prove their abilities but humbled by the magnitude of the task. The asteroid's journey was slow and methodical, guided by the Serenite's organic technology. Tendrils of bioengineered material coiled around the rock, gently but inexorably pulling it toward its destination. The process required constant adjustments to account for gravitational pulls, solar winds, and the delicate movement of celestial bodies. As the asteroid drew closer, tension thickened aboard the Serenite vessel. Kalen, eyes wide with a mix of awe and apprehension, monitored the asteroid's descent on the displays. Turning to Aldrin, they sought reassurance in the Sage's calm demeanor. "We've done everything we can to ensure that this act, while destructive, will leave room for new life to emerge." Aldrin's voice was steady. "The dinosaurs, for all their strength, could not achieve the sentience we sought. But perhaps, in the future, a new form of life will rise to meet our hopes." Kalen nodded, though their thoughts were weighed down by the enormity of what they were about to witness. The asteroid entered Terra's atmosphere, burning brightly as it plummeted toward the surface. When the impact finally occurred, it was nothing short of cataclysmic. The planet trembled, sending shockwaves across continents and hurling debris high into the atmosphere. The dinosaurs, once the dominant rulers of Terra, were obliterated in an instant. Their reign was brought to a violent, fiery end. Kalen watched in silence, their heart heavy as Terra was plunged into darkness, its surface scarred and barren, with only the faintest echoes of the life that had once flourished there. But amidst the devastation, there was movement. A small, resilient mammal, no larger than a hand, emerged from the wreckage. It scurried through the debris, driven by instinct to find shelter and survive. This creature, insignificant in the grand scheme of the Serenite's experiment, nevertheless symbolized the unwavering perseverance of life. Kalen noticed the tiny mammal and, filled with excitement, eagerly alerted Aldrin to the discovery. "Sage Aldrin, look, there's a survivor," Kalen exclaimed. "It's small, but it's alive." Aldrin, his gaze weary yet unwavering, watched the creature for a moment before responding. "A mammal," he murmured softly. "It's certainly resilient, but don't place too much hope in it. Mammals are simple beings, their brains too limited to develop true sentience. It's an anomaly, merely a survivor of the catastrophe. Nothing more." Though Kalen felt a pang of disappointment, they accepted Aldrin's assessment. With a heavy heart, they returned to their station and resumed monitoring the aftermath of the impact. Yet even as he dismissed the mammal's significance, Aldrin couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Terra still harbored untapped potential. As the Serenite finished their observations and prepared to depart, they left behind a planet reset, its future uncertain. The dinosaurs, the great experiment of their creation, were gone. But in their place, life, small and seemingly insignificant, endured, carrying with it the faintest trace of what might one day come to pass. The Serenite outpost, nestled in the vast expanse of dark space, was a place of quiet solitude. It had been many exarians since the High Council last focused on Terra, a planet once deemed a failure, reset by the catastrophic impact of an asteroid. Over the millennia, the outpost had become little more than a relic, a silent observer of the cosmos, all but forgotten except by a few dedicated scholars. Era, the lead researcher and direct descendant of Velocia's legendary bioengineers, was among the few who still found purpose in this ancient outpost. His indigo feathers, tinged with silver, marked him as one of the older Serenite still in service. He had spent much of his life studying the faint signals and whispers that echoed through space, most of which were mere background noise. But today, something unusual had caught his attention. Strange, Aroth murmured, his sharp eyes narrowing as he adjusted the organic controls in front of him. The console, alive in its own right, pulsed gently under his touch, responding with a soft hum. Beside him, his younger colleague Pluma, a bright and inquisitive observer with vibrant orange feathers, leaned closer. Her curiosity piqued. She asked, "What is it, Aroth?" Aroth, his tone serious, turned to her. "I'm picking up signals. Radio transmissions, to be exact. They're coming from Terra." Pluma blinked in surprise. "Terra? But that's the death world, isn't it? The one our ancestors reset after the dinosaurs failed to evolve? There shouldn't be anything there, at least nothing intelligent." "That's what we've always believed," Aroth replied, his voice laced with intrigue. "But these signals are unmistakable. They're not random noise. They follow a structured pattern. Someone or something is transmitting from Terra." Pluma's feathers fluttered with excitement. "But how? Terra was deemed insignificant, a place where no sentient life existed. Could it be that something has changed?" Aroth nodded slowly, his mind racing. "It seems that in the many Exarians since we last visited Terra, life has not only endured but has advanced far beyond our expectations. These signals suggest not just intelligence, but advanced intelligence." The realization struck them both like a shockwave. Terra, once abandoned as a failure, was now broadcasting signals across the stars. The implications were profound. "We must investigate this further," Pluma said, her voice full of determination. "If life on Terra has evolved to this extent, it could change everything we know about evolution and sentience itself." Aroth, though excited, felt the gravity of the situation. "Indeed, we'll need to organize a research mission to Terra. We'll pass by and gather as much data as we can. The Council must be informed, but we must ensure our findings are thorough. This could be one of the most significant discoveries in our history." As they prepared to delve deeper into the signals, Aroth activated one of the stronger transmissions. The organic console's speakers crackled to life, filling the room with a smooth, melodic sound, something entirely foreign to the Serenite. Pluma's eyes widened as she listened. What is that?" Aroth, equally fascinated, tilted his head as the music flowed through the room. "It sounds pleasant. Perhaps some form of communication." The music continued to play, the soft rhythms of smooth jazz filling the chamber. For a moment, both Aroth and Pluma were enraptured by the alien sound, a stark contrast to the silence of the cosmos. Then, as the music faded, a voice followed, clear, articulate, and speaking in a language that, while unfamiliar, carried a tone of sophistication and ease. "Experience the comfort of the new Stride Star collection, where elegance meets durability. Your feet deserve the best Stride Star. Walk the earth." Pluma blinked in confusion, her crest feathers shifting into a puzzled pattern. What is this? Stride Star? And why would they need something for their feet?" Equally perplexed, Aroth replayed the transmission, focusing on the strange words. "It seems to be some sort of protection or adornment for their feet, but why would they need such a thing? Our feet are naturally tough, able to withstand the harshest environments. What could make theirs so vulnerable that they need this Stride Star?" The two Serenite exchanged puzzled glances, their minds racing with confusion and curiosity. Aroth's eyes narrowed as he pondered the implications. "It seems these beings have not only developed intelligence, but also a culture that requires protection for something as basic as their feet. We need to investigate further." Pluma, her initial surprise now giving way to curiosity, smiled. "This is just the beginning. Who knows what else we'll discover? This mission to Terra might uncover far more than we ever expected," Pluma said, her voice brimming with awe. "If they have ideas like Stride Star and require protection for their feet, there's so much we still need to learn." Aroth nodded, his initial excitement now mixed with a sense of wonder. "Exactly. We'll begin our preparations right away. Terra may hold the answers to questions we've been pondering for Exarian. The development of this world could reveal much about life and evolution, perhaps in ways we never imagined." As they continued their preparations for the journey, the soft melodies of smooth jazz filled the air, and both Aroth and Pluma couldn't help but feel that Terra, once dismissed as a death world, was on the verge of changing the course of their civilization. With eager anticipation, they began to ready themselves for a journey that would certainly lead to discoveries they hadn't expected. In the docking bay of the Serenite research vessel, The ship hummed with activity as Aroth and Pluma completed their final checks. The vessel, a mix of living rock and flexible organic material, was prepared to embark on its journey to Terra. Tendrils of bioengineered substance pulsed gently along the ship's surface, responding to the energy of the crew as they moved about, finishing up last-minute tasks. Aroth, his indigo-feathered crest shimmering in the bioluminescent light, adjusted a control panel embedded in the ship's hull. His movements were slow and precise, the product of many Exarians spent honing his craft beside him. Pluma's vibrant orange feathers flared with excitement, her eyes filled with anticipation. "Aroth?" Pluma began, her voice carrying a mix of curiosity and a slight trace of nervousness. "Do you think Terra will be what we expect?" Aroth paused, giving the question careful thought. "Expectations can be a dangerous thing, Pluma. We've studied the signals, analyzed the transmissions, but there's still so much we don't know about what we're walking into. Terra has evolved in ways we could never have foreseen. That alone should caution us against making assumptions." Pluma nodded, her feathers relaxing into a calmer pattern. "You're right, of course, but it's hard not to wonder. We've caught glimpses of their culture, heard their music, even noticed their unusual interest in something called Stride Star for foot protection. It's all so alien." Aroth smiled softly. "Alien indeed. The Terrans have created a culture around concepts we've never even considered. Protecting their feet, for instance, something so fundamental, yet so different from how we live. It shows a degree of fragility, but also ingenuity that we must respect." Pluma's eyes sparkled with interest. "And their technology. We know they've progressed far beyond what we once thought possible. But what if they've discovered something that we haven't even begun to consider? What if they've found ways to manipulate their environment in ways we can't yet fathom?" Aroth's expression grew thoughtful. "That's exactly why this mission is so crucial. Terra may hold answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask. Their progress might give us fresh perspectives on life, intelligence, and perhaps even the universe itself. But we must approach it with caution and humility. We're not here to impose our understanding. We're here to observe and learn." Pluma tilted her head, her feathers shifting to indicate deep thought. "Do you think they'll recognize us if we make contact? Do you think they'll understand us for who we are?" Aroth's gaze softened. "That, Pluma, is one of the greatest unknowns. The Terrans are clearly intelligent. That much is obvious. But how they perceive us, beings from another world, remains to be seen. It's possible they'll see us as incomprehensible, or perhaps as equals, fellow explorers in this vast universe." Pluma sighed, her excitement tempered by a growing sense of responsibility. "I guess that's what makes this journey both thrilling and daunting. We're stepping into the unknown, not knowing what we'll encounter or how it might change us." Aroth nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That's the heart of exploration, Pluma. The unknown is our greatest challenge, but also our greatest reward. Whatever we find on Terra will reshape our understanding of the universe, and maybe even ourselves." As the final preparations were completed, the ship's tendrils retracted into the hull. The vessel hummed with life, ready to begin its long voyage to a distant world once considered insignificant. As the ship began to lift off, Pluma gazed out the viewport at the stars stretching out before them. "We're ready, Aroth," she said. "Whatever Terra holds, we're ready." Aroth smiled, feeling the weight of the journey ahead, yet also the excitement that came with it. "Then let's see what the Terrans have to teach us." The stars are waiting. With a final hum, the ship's engines roared to life, and it shot into the void, leaving the safety of their outpost behind. Aroth and Pluma watched as their homeworld of Velocia faded from view, their thoughts already focused on the mysteries waiting for them on Terra. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit conference room at a prominent research institute, a group of scientists and astronomers gathered around a large table. The walls were lined with screens displaying data, charts, and images, all focused on one particular object, Oumuamua. The room buzzed with hushed conversation, the air thick with a mix of excitement and skepticism. Dr. Clara Williams, a leading astrophysicist with sharp eyes and short-cropped hair, stood at the head of the table, holding a laser pointer. She tapped it against her palm, waiting for the chatter to subside. When the room finally fell silent, she began, "All right, everyone, let's get to it. We're here to discuss the latest findings and theories about Oumuamua, the interstellar object that's captivated our attention since it was first detected in 2017 inches. Clara pressed a button, and an image of Oumuamua, elongated and tumbling through space, appeared on the main screen. The room's attention immediately shifted, all eyes locked onto the strange cigar-shaped object. Dr. Samuel Clark, an astronomer known for his calm and measured demeanor, leaned forward, his brow furrowed in concentration. The latest data from the Pan-STARRS telescope indicates that Oumuamua's acceleration as it departed the solar system doesn't align with what we would expect from a typical asteroid or comet. It's almost as if it's being propelled by something. A low murmur rippled through the room. The idea had been suggested before, but it still stirred curiosity among the scientific minds present. Dr. Grace Thompson, an expert in extraterrestrial studies, crossed her arms and smiled skeptically. So, are we finally going to discuss the elephant in the room? The idea that Oumuamua might not just be some piece of interstellar debris, but something else entirely? Clara nodded, acknowledging the unspoken tension in the air. We've all heard the theories, ranging from it being an unusual natural object to, potentially, being an artificial craft. Kai Turner from Harvard has been particularly vocal about the latter. He suggests that the object's shape, its strange acceleration, and the absence of outgassing point to something constructed, not naturally formed. Dr. Thompson raised an eyebrow, a wry smile forming. You mean he thinks it's an alien probe? For a moment, the room fell silent, the weight of the possibility settling in the air. Clara glanced around at the gathered scientists, sensing their reactions. Dr. Michael Zoe, a planetary scientist, cleared his throat before speaking. Look, I'm all for considering every hypothesis, but we need to stay grounded. There's still a lot we don't understand about Oumuamua. Its behavior could be caused by factors we haven't even thought of yet. Maybe solar radiation, or some kind of outgassing we simply haven't detected. We need to be careful about jumping to conclusions. Samuel nodded in agreement. Michael's right. We need more data, but we can't dismiss the possibility outright. If it isn't a natural object, that has monumental implications. We should be ready to explore every possibility, no matter how improbable it seems. Clara clicked to the next slide, revealing a graph of Oumuamua's trajectory. Our window to study this object is closing rapidly. It's already leaving the solar system. And after this, we may never get another chance. We need to decide what to focus on, whether we push to refine the data we have or start considering new methods for tracking similar objects in the future. Grace leaned back, her eyes thoughtful. If there's even a small chance that Oumuamua is more than just a rock, we owe it to ourselves and to humanity to investigate that possibility. This could be the most significant discovery of our time. The room fell into a tense silence as each scientist became lost in their own thoughts. The idea that they could be on the verge of discovering evidence of extraterrestrial technology was exhilarating, but also daunting. It challenged everything they knew, everything they thought was true. Finally, Clara broke the silence. All right, here's the plan. We'll split into two teams. One will refine our current models to see if there's any natural explanation we've overlooked. The other will focus on a more speculative approach, exploring the possibility of artificial origins. We'll meet back here in a week to compare findings. As the scientists began to discuss logistics and form their teams, the room grew lively with animated conversation. Oumuamua, once just a small blip on their radar, had transformed into a source of endless fascination, and possibly the key to solving one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Are we alone in the universe? As the team filed out of the room, Clara paused by the screen, her eyes fixed on the image of the mysterious object. Whatever you are, she whispered to the void, we're going to figure you out.